Hi guys, welcome to another Pieandbelle online art class. This week we're looking at chalk pastels. We're using Toison d'Or pastels and Fabriano pastel paper, and we're going to do this cloudy mountain scene using the ripped paper technique. So if you'd like to come to our regular classes, please have a look in my bio for all the information there, but let's get on with this picture. So I've printed this picture out online and I'm going to follow it kind of, but it's not going to be exact. The first thing I'm doing is getting that sky in, so it goes from a kind of mid blue, so I'm mixing the two blues together, the darker blue and the pale blue, and then it goes into a cream and then into a peach and then into a pink to purple. So I'm going to get all those lovely colours in. I don't want to neglect the sky even though it's mainly about the mountains, so I am actually kind of thinking about it and putting it in as many colours as I can. Now you can see there with the yellow goes quite a long way, so don't kind of chuck in a load of yellow. It is literally a cream, so you only need a tiny little bit of yellow to make that kind of creamy colour. And there's that kind of dotted clouds going across the top there. Now you can mix it together, all the colours you can mix together by really pushing hard with your hands, or when I got to those kind of dotted clouds right at the top, I kind of patted them out a little bit so that I'm not mixing the chalk entirely in. And this is always good to kind of realise that you have different ways of mixing them together. You can really push hard and mix the colours together entirely, or you can kind of layer them by like slightly tapping it and not mixing quite so harshly. So now I'm going to bring in some grey clouds just across that backdrop there, and then I'm going to start applying my mountains. There's just a little few kind of fluffy bits of cloud going across there. Now, when we're putting our mountains in, what we're going to do is tear some paper to make some mountains. So this is why the picture isn't going to be entirely accurate unless you've got all the time in the world to kind of create your little mountain scenes with paper, which probably would take you quite some time. The lovely thing about ripped paper is it gives you that kind of natural jaggedy edge of a mountain, of a rock side anyway, so it works really nicely. My paper only goes kind of partially across my picture, so what I'm going to do is kind of double it up as I'm going across. And for the background mountains, I'm going to use black and another colour. So this first one I'm using black and purple, and I want them to be quite faint because they're in the distance. So I'm going to mix them up on my paper, and then I'm going to use the mountains that I think are the ones I like the most, the shapes I like the most as I'm going across. And I'm just going to bring down a little hint of that mountain. Now you can see there I've got a wipe, and I am going to wash my hands every time I'm going in between into different colours. This is really important because we're going to be going from dark to light a lot. Now what I'm going to do is get an idea of the body of clouds in. The reason I'm doing this is because when you start putting the mountains in, you are going to find that your fingers are very dirty, and there's going to get black everywhere because we're using a lot of black. So I want to get that kind of the big kind of bulk of white in there and all the light colours as much as I can so that I'm not disturbing it too much. Obviously I will have to kind of bring clouds along the bottom of the mountains and stuff like that as I'm going along, but this means that I've got kind of a bulk of light colour in there that I don't have to worry too much about. Now these slightly closer mountains, I'm going to mix the blue and the black together, and I think I realised there that I'd got a little bit too much black, so I added more blue because I do want these to be slightly different colours than the foreground ones, which are going to be predominantly black. So I am kind of considering the different colours that I'm using to kind of create this. And also I'm using a lighter amount of product. I'm not bringing the product onto the actual paper. If you see, I'm mixing it on the paper at the back, and then I'm bringing it down with my fingers. When I get closer, I will actually bring the product onto the paper to make them darker. So I think with this one, you'll see I actually bring the pastel over that join onto the paper, and that will make it immediately darker because you're putting it directly onto the paper. And then I'm rubbing it, and I'm just going to leave the bottom loose there and bring the cloud over the top. Now it does go down to a kind of bluish colour at the bottom there, but you can see now whenever I change back to the white, I'm washing my hands in between so that I'm not getting too much grey. You are going to get a grey because you've got the black beneath the white, and that's fine if you get a small amount of kind of a greyish colour like you can see that I just got just there. But just be kind of cautious with it. Try not to get too much of it because you want the clouds to be as white and fluffy as you possibly can keep them. Now I deliberately chose this colour backdrop, the actual colour of the paper, this kind of greyish colour, because I thought it went quite well into the clouds. You could equally use a pale blue or some other colour that would work well in the clouds, or even a white. But you can see how like I've left elements of that kind of coloured of that paper there. You can see the grey, and it works perfectly well as part of the clouds. It doesn't seem out of place or whatever. So that's why it's nice when you get a lot of different colours of this paper, you can actually use one that benefits you a lot. And you can see now how these kind of mountains are getting much more bolder as I'm coming towards myself, gives me a bit of depth. And I'm just tearing the paper every single time into slightly different patterns, and I'm following the shape of the mountains to a point. Obviously I'm not getting the exact shapes in with the exact kind of different highlights and lowlights of them, because it's quite impossible to tear the paper like that in a natural form. But I'm getting it a general shape. So now I'm just bringing that kind of foreground one that's slightly in the clouds. It's kind of more covered with clouds, this one at the front. So it has a partial middle bit that's in the cloud, and then there's a smaller bit at the bottom exposed. And you can see there how the black is kind of merging into the bottom, but it doesn't look bad. It looks fine, it's still working. You will get little bits of black in it because you're working with black. Can't be helped, but obviously you don't mind having little bits of grey because clouds naturally have a little kind of element of grey to them anyway. And now I'm just going to start building my clouds up around these more and bringing myself lots of different depth of highlights and lowlights. Now there's also a good thing about using different fingers. Obviously my kind of middle finger is larger than my small finger, so I am thinking what kind of size I'm using when I get to the further ones in the background. I may use my smaller finger like that to give myself smaller circles in the clouds. So you're just considering as you're going along. Now I'm just tidying up little bits, and now I am actually going to come in and tap out these like little white spots to give myself just little highlights on the cloud, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So literally just touch in some little white elements and use your little finger to just pad them out. I'm not mixing them in, I'm just touching them and padding them out. And then I think the last element of this picture is I come in with a Conte pencil, a chalk pencil, which is in black, and I'm literally just going to give myself some more little definitions of trees and stuff on the mountains. Literally hardly anything, literally just tiny little stripes is all you need, because these mountains are so far away. Just gives a little bit of interest, and that's it. It's done. Really lovely, easy one today, but lots of fun with the tearing of the paper. I hope you really enjoyed that, guys. See you next time. Bye.